Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Crystal and I'm going to be reading some wholesome Reddit stories today. But before I do that, I want to mention that I am doing a giveaway for that mug and yarn that is in the top left corner. So if you're interested, please look into the description of this video and it will tell you what the rules are for the giveaway and what I need you to do. Now, let me continue with what I'm doing. Today I'm going to be crocheting for about 15 minutes and I'm working on this butterfly shawl that I am working on with as a make along with BJ's Crochet. I will leave a link to her channel in the description below. And yeah, so join me as I read these Reddit stories. They are not my own stories. They were taken from Reddit, and I will leave a link to the stories in the description as well, if you're interested in reading the comments and updates. Story number 1. Stranger gave me her umbrella after we got caught in the middle of a downpour. Earlier today, I went to the nearby grocery store and failed to come back home before a massive downpour with thunderstorms coming from afar. I stopped near the pedestrian crossing, and this random woman stops next to me, waiting for the green light. Now, I was absolutely not dressed for the weather and was completely soaked. This lady turns to me and asks which direction I'm heading in, because she wants to share her umbrella with me. I'm flattered. It turns out that we're going in the same direction. After a bit, we reach her car, and I'm absolutely ready to sprint home because it's 5 minutes away at the most, and I have had to run longer paths in just as bad weather as this one. Suddenly, she hands the umbrella to me and tells me to keep it. I'm shocked and ask her, "But what about her?" To which she says, "I'll need it more," and that she has an extra one in her car anyway. We wish each other a lovely day and safe road home, especially to her because the streets were like small rivers, and I really hope that she got home okay. And we went our separate ways. Safe to say I'm definitely keeping this umbrella and hope for the best for this woman wherever she is. Love it. Story number 2. Title: I didn't think anyone would tell me that again. Our first date was the most awkward date I ever been on. In conversation, he wouldn't look at me and was fidgety. It was clear he had extreme anxiety. He's been single for 8 years, the first few by choice, but since then he's always just been too nervous to make any moves. An early Monday coffee date after we had talked a few days on Hinge, and he seemed really cool. We are similar in fields and have an affinity for coffee and baklava and enjoy hiking. So all of those were exciting points for conversation, but the banter didn't translate well in person. The second date was slightly less awkward, but it was still painful for him to keep eye contact and have thorough conversation as we walked around downtown. Exploring the downtown scene is always fun, so I just kept the conversation rolling as best I could and enjoyed the walk for what it was. We got dinner at a small bar off the main square, ate some Creole-inspired dishes, and headed back to our cars. I asked if he wanted me to drive him to his car, and he said sure. We sat in my car for 30 minutes looking at pictures of wildflowers that he had took from previous hikes. And we talked a bit about the plants I was growing. He managed to perk up a bit and the conversation easily rolled from there. By the third date, I was sure it was going to be our last. He was cute, but with my large gargantuous personality, I know I can be a lot for others, especially those with anxiety. I knew I was looking for someone who wanted to build a relationship with me, be honest, tell me their unfiltered thoughts, and I was sure he didn't fit what I was looking for. That was an unfair character assessment on my part, because our third date, he managed to really open up about his past and the anxiety around me lifted. That night, he messaged me asking, "Where is this really going?" which made me smile. I'm usually the one texting those messages, looking for clarity after dates. I told him I really enjoyed hanging out that day and I'd like to keep going on dates, but that was all I could say. 1 month later, we're hanging out every other day. We cook together, go to breweries and trivia nights together. Last night we got in a deep philosophical debate about the future of society and our prospective roles in shaping it. We were standing next to the fire in my backyard and just held hands with our backs to the flames to keep us warm. Aww. He stayed the night and laid in bed. I said, "I love you." He took a deep, heavy breath and asked what was that about. I looked up with my head still on his chest and was crying, saying, I didn't think anyone would tell me that again. I had to stop myself crying too and hugged his chest as tightly as I could. I'm really, really happy I kept coming back. He told me that I am the one he's been looking for so long. I know I'm the lucky one though. Story number 3, titled, When I Was Younger, I Took in a Cat. One sunny afternoon in June, when I was 9, as I was riding my bike around the neighborhood, I spotted a small furry creature lying by the side of the road. Curiosity piqued, I hopped off my bike and rushed over to investigate. To my surprise and my delight, it was a beautiful cat with bright green eyes staring up at me. There was no collar around its neck, and it seemed a little scared and unsure. Without hesitation, I scooped the cat into my arms and cradled it gently, feeling an instant connection with this vulnerable creature. As I pedaled home with the cat nestled in the basket of my bike, my mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. I knew I couldn't leave this poor animal alone on the street. Arriving home, I immediately set up a cozy corner in my room with a soft blanket and a bowl of water for the cat. My parents were surprised but supportive of my impromptu decision to take in the stray. We spent the evening getting to know each other, and by the end of the night, I had decided to name my new furry friend Luna. Well, from that moment on, Luna became my loyal companion, and I felt a sense of pride in knowing that I had made a difference in her life. Oh, that's so wholesome. I love that. Take in all the kitties. I love it. Okay. The next story number, I forgot what number I'm on. 4? Probably. So, title. Mom hit me with a roll of wrapping paper and that's how I started dating my boyfriend. If it wasn't for my mom, I probably would not be dating my boyfriend after being in a toxic friends with benefits situation. Not even a relationship. Sorry for my English, I'm a non-native speaker. So, this toxic man-child, let's call him Greg, had a whole year to keep me on his hook, saying he would never want a relationship, but he needed me. I was the person he could talk about his dating problems with, and of course having relations with while I was super in love with him. You get the picture. In September of last year, I needed to move for work. I was super unhappy. Until the end of the year, I felt like Greg was the only one I was close to, because he was especially friendly with me whenever I felt bad, and just to ignore me a day later. I could barely even hug him, because he didn't want me like that. So when I decided to start dating again, I went on this amazing first date with my now boyfriend, and of course, I had to tell Greg because we talked on the phone nearly every day. That's when he started to tell me all the stuff he sacrificed for me, and that he had a friend who had an amazing first date too, but the guy was actually terrible. We talked for 3 hours, me crying. He sweet-talked me. And of course, after I was so unsure, I really thought dating this wonderful man was a bad idea. When I told my mom on the phone, she invited me to visit her. I did, and once I entered the living room, my loving mother jumped up from behind the door and started hitting me with a roll of wrapping paper. It was a week before Christmas, saying, like, "Why are you still talking with Greg?" She literally knocked some sense into me and encouraged me to go on another date with my boyfriend and to block Greg on every possible platform. It actually took me weeks to accomplish that. Greg called regularly after I told him I didn't want any contact with him. He even got a new number after I blocked his private number and his work number, but I did it. This was about 3 months ago. I know we're still in the honeymoon phase, but I believe I found the love of my life, and I couldn't be happier. This morning at breakfast, my boyfriend saw an eyelash on my face, and I told him to make a wish. He looked at me and said, "Why? I have everything I could wish for." So yeah, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. Next story. Title: Teacher Who Saved Me. I, 15 female, had a teacher, 8th grade social studies, who saved my life. I started going into her room for lunch in the middle of last school year and ended up finding out we had a lot in common with each other. We both loved theater and could talk about it for hours. About a week ago, I opened my first high school musical, and she came to opening night. Aw, that's so sweet. My mom was unable to go to any of the performances, so I was really glad that she was there. Halfway through, I began to have a panic attack and started crying. I couldn't go to her, but thankfully my older brother was back there to help. I ended up not being able to say hi to her at all, which made me feel even worse. I was planning on ending it all after the show closed. The day after, I went to her room and asked if I could give her a hug. When she said okay, I hugged her and asked if I could hold on for a bit. She asked me if everything was okay, and I said I didn't want to talk about it. She wrapped her other arm around me, which she had never done before, and didn't say a word. In that moment, I realized that if I left, I'd never get to hug my favorite teacher or anyone else ever again. So I decided that if for no one else, I should keep going for my favorite teacher. So thank you, Miss V. You kept me going for longer than expected. That was, I've got goosebumps. Wow. I didn't expect that. Last story. Title: The Officer and the Kid. I'm currently 16 and a sophomore in high school. My school is big, and I mean big. So big we need resource officers. But essentially they're just regular police officers who have the honor of breaking up fights or confiscating vapes. Because my school is big, there are many routes to the many classes, and every day I take the same route and get to class the same time. I take the same path to see the same thing I always do. I walk this path to see an officer and a kid talking. It's always the same officer and kid. This kid is autistic. He has trouble with a lot of things like socializing. He doesn't have problems with talking to this officer though. He talks to the officer every day and the man is always willing to listen. The kid will talk about his interests and what's happening in his life, and the officer will always listen and give responses. Recently, we had a fire drill, and during said drill, they sounded the alarm. The kid was worried, thinking it was a real fire, and later that day, I saw him talking to the officer about it. The officer comforted him and explained why the school runs drills. As someone who is also autistic, it genuinely warms my heart to watch this kid and man bond, and it warms my heart that the kid has someone to talk to and hang out with. I hope you guys enjoyed these wholesome stories. Well, thank you for watching me crochet and listening to me talk. And if you enjoyed this, please watch another one, I guess. Have a good day, night, month or week or even a year. Okay. Bye, guys. Till next time.